Hello everybody, welcome back to my railway YouTube channel, Ronnie the Engineer. My name is Ronnie. In today's episode, I'm going to be talking about a locomotive that I really wanted to have in my collection so bad. So, without further ado, get your railway tickets for free and come ride the rails with Ronnie the Engineer. So, all aboard! Right, let's get into the topic of this video. So, I have two reasons for wanting to have this engine in my collection. Now, before I get into that, I just want to tell you that the engine I have in my collection right now is none other than a Lionel Lionmaster Challenger 4664 articulated steam engine for the Union Pacific Railway. The engine number is 3983, and here it is. Now, a lot of you are like wondering, like, Ronnie, what is this? What is this? Where'd you get this? Why does it look like this? Well, there is a story to it, and I will be very happy to tell you. In fact, I got two reasons for wanting to collect this engine in this kind of condition. So, let's get started. This engine here is obviously what you see. It's in a very poor condition. Right, so let's get into the details of this locomotive. So the one thing I want to point out is that I bought this used, and it was in, and as you can see, it is in very poor condition. And let me show you some of the details and some of the areas that are really poor. So, but it's mainly the railing. Yeah, see? The railing is not in good shape. It's missing all these holders. I really don't know where I can get replacements for them. And of course, these wires right here. Now, again, I don't know where to be honest with you, I really don't know what these wires go to. So leave a comment down below if any of you know. Basically, the whole story behind this engine is that I wanted to have a Lionel Challenger, particularly a Vision Line. So the moment I got into this, okay, so let me go through the history of this engine here. So this engine is obviously one of my very favorite articulated steam engines from the Union Pacific Railway. The real reason why I wanted this engine so bad was because, number one, inspiration. The real-life Challenger 3985 is actually being restored today. I don't know how long it'll be before it gets back into operating service, but I hope it's pretty soon because I really want to see that engine in operation. And second, back in 2023, I was going through some hard times. And I bought this body shell Challenger as a Christmas present. Why did I do that? Because I wanted to. I wanted a Challenger in my collection. And when I first heard about Lionmaster, and what does that mean, Lionmaster? Well, it is a semi-scale version of its O-scale counterpart of the Vision Line or the JLC. So this is a smaller version that's able to negotiate curves as tight as O31s. The tightest curves I have is O27s, and the looser curves I have are O54s and O72s. Those are the only three sets I have. However, I do have a set, well, not a complete set of O42s, but I really want to get some. Now, for the Challenger, the whole point of it was the fact that I wanted to have this engine in my collection. Since I was going through a very rough time, I figured, why don't I just get a Challenger that will help me get through this? Well, the thing was, I was looking for a Lionmaster, a semi-scale version that can negotiate tight curves, which is the 3985. Now, here's the kicker. When I first bought the engine, I didn't even bother to look at the number. I was so excited because it was the cheapest thing I could find. It was so cheap. In fact, the boiler shell itself was only $70. That was cheap enough for me to afford. And then other than that, I couldn't get a brand new one because the brand new ones today, particularly for this one, the 3983, which is when I found out 2 days later after I'd ordered it, was only about $300 if you buy a brand new one, fully assembled. Now, of course, a lot of you are probably wondering, why didn't you get a brand new one? Well, I was going through some rough times. And plus, the boiler shell was the only thing I could afford at that point. And plus, I figured out a better way on how I can get started into the hobby. So, with that, I figured I would make it a goal to buy certain body shells, or should I say boiler shells, of certain steam engines, whether if they were Vision Line, JLC, or Line Master. So that kind of gave me the upper hand and the greatest advantage of all, just to actually get started into the hobby. I've already collected a lot of the track. I've gotten some rolling stock. I've got one heavyweight passenger coach, which, by the way, if you haven't checked out that video, go check it out on my YouTube channel. It's a heavyweight Pullman coach that runs from 042 to 027s. I literally converted it to that. But anyway, back to the Challenger. The Challenger itself is an icon. If you notice on my profile, there's the Challenger sitting right there, right in front of me, along with the little mini-me. And then starting the new year off in 2024, I thought of maybe selling it. But then like months later, I said to myself, it's not going to work. It's not going to sell. Nobody's not going to want to buy a boiler shell that's cosmetically not functional and not fully assembled. They're going to want brand new ones that work, particularly the ones that are very expensive. Now, I really wish I could get the brand new version of it, but the problem is I can't, because I just can't afford it at this point in time, because I have to deal with a lot of problems and things like that. Things that are just too important at this point. So with that, I hold on to this engine as a reminder that we can't push through. But the problem is, I want this engine to get back up and running so I can feature it on my YouTube channel. And therefore start doing the same thing for all the other engines. Now, before I even got the Challenger, I really wanted to have a Line Master version of one of my all-time favorite articulated steam engines from the Norfolk and Western Railway, Class A 2664, engine number 1218. I really wanted to have that engine so bad. But then when I found out what the minimal curve is to operate the engine on, I just didn't have it. But then when I looked down into the basement, I was like, oh wait, I actually have that. But I didn't exactly have a complete circle. So now that I do, I actually have a complete circle of 072s. And I have a full complete circle of 054. And I got like tons of 027 curves. So I'm not worried about that. It's the bigger engines I'm more worried about, because since they're bigger and they require a bigger amount of curves, there is a bit of a limit to that. So with that being said, this video is part 1 of the restoration project for the Challenger 3983. As you can see, this engine here really deserves some attention right now, because this engine is telling me, I want to work. And I'm hearing this engine over and over and over again. Yes, I get it. I want to help. But in order for me to do that, I got to get all the parts. Now, I went onto this website called LionelSupport.com. You can check it. I can leave a link down below if you like. So with that, I go to their website to see if I could find all the replacement parts. The thing is, they do have them. But the thing is, that tender is one of the most hardest pieces to find, particularly for the 3983. Somehow I get the feeling that this tender is just so rare, you just can't find it anywhere. It's like this thing doesn't even exist. So I eventually found one for a Line Master version. I hope to maybe in the future get this engine up and running. Hopefully. I don't know. It could take, I don't know how many years it'll take. It could take up to God knows how long. But that is a goal for this Challenger, and a goal for me to also get the 3985, which is the real representation of my YouTube channel. I really want to have a JLC version of the Challenger 3985. I've seen a lot of videos about it on YouTube, so I'm like saying to myself, I gotta get one. So I figured the best way to do that is to buy them in parts. That's to me, that's how I will do that. Now, why am I going to buy them in parts? 1, it'll be easier for me to get started into the hobby, and I can easily assemble them. So therefore, it'll save me the trouble from having to spend literally thousands of dollars for just one package. So I figure I spend a little bit at a time. So with that, I'm gonna see if I can actually pull it off. It's a challenge. What am I saying? That's why it's called a challenger. That's why I got a challenger. It's worth a challenge. I'm up for it, and I'm gonna see to it that that engine gets up and running. The 3983, once it's fully assembled, it'll be the very first steam locomotive, articulated steam locomotive, in my collection. I'm hoping to do the same thing for all the other articulated steam engines, because right now my goal is to actually get some of the bigger engines, because they are so expensive and very rare to find today, especially on eBay. But however, there is a website I may try. It's called trains.com. That's trains with a Z. So I could try looking on there. But when I did, they did have some of the pieces. They did have some of the engines, but they were very expensive. But that's not going to stop me from pushing forward, for wanting to get this Challenger up and running and restored again. So with that being said, I will see what I can do. And this will be a restoration project for me to get this engine up and running, and I'll run alongside with the other two engines that I have. So without further ado, and thank you all for tuning in. I hope you all enjoyed it. Thank you very much. This is Ronnie the Engineer saying, see you next time on the Lionel Railway. Good luck!